anyone tuning in right now or to anyone tuning in to this in the future. My name is Stephanie Morales. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. I work for Semester in the City as the Manager of Student Recruitment, and I have here a current fellow of the program and an alumni who I am going to let introduce. Colin and Jackie, if you want to introduce yourselves with your name, major, year, if relevant, when you did Semester in the City.
Sure. My name is Colin Loftus. I'm a senior. I'm a political science major with an international affairs concentration, and I'm a member of the spring 2020 cohort for Semester in the City.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Jackie. I'm a senior this year at the University of Vermont. I am an environmental studies major. I'm an English minor, and I did Semester in the City last semester. I worked with Green City Growers as a marketing and business development intern.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. So for those of you tuning in that aren't super familiar with Semester in the City, I'm going to give a brief overview before we turn it over and just start this conversation. Before we get to why we're all here, Colin and Jackie. So Semester in the City is a 15-week experiential study away program, and you can participate in this program either fall or spring. And during your semester, you get matched with a social impact organization in Boston where you intern for 30 hours a week while also taking 2 classes that are really complementing your learning, complementing your experience, and are very hands-on. They're not your typical college class for sure. And we can talk more about those later with the experts. So we partner. The most important part of this is probably that you need to know is that we partner with colleges to make sure that this experience is fully credited. So you receive a full semester's worth of credit for participating, and also that your semester in the city costs the same or less than a semester on campus. So that's a little bit about us. And later on, we can talk more about a certain upcoming deadline next week and tell you more about the process. But without further ado, I'd love to start with my first question, and that's to both of you. Why did you decide to participate in Semester in the City?
Jackie, do you want to go first, or I can?
Yeah, sure, I can. So when I found out about Semester in the City, I was in my library and there was a flyer just sitting on a random table. And at the time, I think we were about to have finals, and I was a little bit frustrated with my experience, with my college experience so far. It was great. I've definitely learned a lot, but I was very eager to do a lot more hands-on work that really showed that I was actually learning anything instead of just absorbing a lot of material. And I always have been saying in the back of my mind, as I've been an ambassador for this program, that you kind of do get to learn a lot from a lot of teachers, but it seems like they're just flowing material at you. And I think that I just wanted to be able to kind of show myself that I've learned something. And I thought the Semester in the City seemed like a great way to do that in a city, which I definitely wanted to see if I would be able to withstand. And I definitely did. And I definitely thought it would be another great way to just meet new people who were like-minded in the sense that we all just wanted to make a change in the world.
So it's going to be really hard to add on because Jackie said pretty much everything that motivated me to participate in Semester in the City. I knew that I wanted to help people in my career, but I really didn't know what that looked like with a poli-sci major. I was really deep into the poli-sci major at that point, and found out about Semester in the City through the internship coordinator at my school, who said these are all internships in the social sector, so wherever they place you, you're going to be doing something productive and something helpful. Additionally, I did also really want to live in the city. I've never lived in the city before, and I loved it, and it was great for that social aspect, for the ability to meet new people and be out and about in a city that has a lot more going on than my hometown. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I also just wanted internship experience before I graduated. So that was the other plus. But it's shown me a career path that I wouldn't have considered that I'm heavily considering now. So it's been great.
Awesome. So it sounds like both of you have this or had this common thread of wanting to make a change, feeling like there was something missing, that you wanted to connect your learning in the classroom to theory and practice. So I'd love for either or both of you to talk about why you think this program and just in general experiential learning is important for students.
I would say it's a lot of what Jackie said about like actually being able to kind of have that self-confidence that you are able to actually do the work and not just know conceptually how to do the work. Because a lot of class seems like theories and all of that is really important, but to be able to actually dive into a program and feel like you're contributing on a tangible level is really, really like a huge boost to your self-confidence. And I'm doing it right before I enter the job market, so it's extra beneficial to me, I think, to be able to jump in with that boost to the confidence of like, oh, I can do this, and I just did this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I think it definitely helps you realize what sort of skills are necessary in your work fields, and to kind of see which ones you have already in your back pocket, and then kind of know going into your first job experience or graduate school experience, kind of knowing what sort of school or skills you want to build off of in the future, I think is really important. And it's something that I think that people who are employers are looking for in terms of, going into a job experience, knowing that you want to gain skills from them in particular.
Awesome. And Jackie and Colin, how do you think this program, you're both touching upon this a little bit, but how do you think it's impacted you both personally and professionally, if you could sum it up in like one bullet point for each?
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome to go first, Jackie. I'm gonna mull it over for a second.
I should know this because I've been writing my senior thesis on this this past week. I guess I would say definitely professionally, I got most of the experience understanding what sort of job sector I do want to be in the future. And I think that was the most valuable to me, just because I knew I wanted to be working with sustainable businesses, but I didn't really know exactly how or at what scale. And so some of the activities we would do in semesters in the city were talking to professionals in like small interviews. And I was able to use that as an opportunity to look at the same idea of sustainable business from different scales. Like I talked with a consultant, but I also talked with, actually it was an extra interview I did, but I talked with somebody who oversees a lot of different businesses and talks with a lot of different people. And I kind of got to understand from the perspective of my B corporation and then those interviews that I wanted to work with more than just one business and not just make small change within a specific corporation, which is kind of why I'm going back to school now, actually. So if it wasn't for the program, I really wouldn't have known that at this point.
I would just add on top of all of that, I think it gave me the benefit of seeing what kind of workplace I want to be in, because the program I got placed with is City Life Vida Urbana, and they really like the workplace culture is just amazing. It's so supportive because the work is so hard. Like they really do lean on each other in a way that I was like, I saw it modeled, and I want to replicate that in whatever job I wind up working in. It's nice to see like that workplace exists.
Awesome. Shifting gears a little bit, because for those of you tuning in who might not have done semester in the city before, there's an internship matching process. So you don't necessarily get to pick your internship, but you do have the opportunity to have a say and really let us know all that you want us to know about where you'd like to work and what matters to you in that process. So you're matched with your organization. For the both of you, how did that process go?
For me personally, it was stressful at first because I, again, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my internship. I was kind of hoping to throw myself at you guys and have you pick something for me. So actually having to hammer down what my interests were specifically, what skills I wanted to hone over the course of the semester specifically was difficult at first, but was made so much easier by the recruiters and by the people that do the matching placement. And actually, like the placement that I got was not one that I would have anticipated working with, like not something I might have picked of my own volition. And it has been like truly transformative in the best sense. My mentor is perfect. The the nonprofit is amazing. Like the work they're doing is amazing. And I will truly be involved with the movement after this internship ends. So I couldn't be more grateful, but I kind of threw it up to the sky.
Yeah, I definitely kind of went in with that same mindset of, I knew that I'd be placed with a group that I would be able to, just put myself into any sort of situation and just go for it. But I do think that there's a lot of people in my group, at least, when we kind of went through this like feedback process of like what can make this part of the time, like when you're starting to think about what sort of internship you want, like how could that process be better? I guess just like reflecting for yourself exactly like what sort of skills you might want, or doing some research ahead of time with what organization you might like to be a part of, or the types of positions that students have had in the past that could work for you. I definitely did a little bit of that beforehand. I mentioned a few different organizations, actually, including the one that I did get. And I think that just kind of helped, just talking through it definitely helped to kind of have the organizer, who was Molly, kind of see where I could best fit in. And I think it did help. But I knew kind of going into that, it's more about how you make the most of the experience, and not the other way around.
Awesome. Well, I feel like I've been asking a lot of the questions, so I'd love to, I know both of you have not met each other yet, in person at least. So do you all have any questions for each other?
I think I'd like to know kind of what the day-to-day life is for you.
Like post all of this, because it's definitely shifted.
Pre and a little bit of post, just so you can kind of see the difference.
Definitely. So pre, I was honestly hitting my stride. I was waking up about 6:30 in the morning because I was commuting. The apartments are mostly in Alston, unless you decide to live on your own in the city. But the apartments are excellent, by the way. So I was commuting from Alston to Jamaica Plain, and that was a little over an hour and a half commute. So I was getting up early and like getting into my internship, working 9 to 5, but occasionally doing like 12 to 8 because we had community meetings. There was a lot of flexibility to my schedule when I was actually in the city versus post-COVID kind of adjusting to working from home and trying to, there's really just not been an off button. And that's more a personal flaw where I'm just like doing too much and it'll be 9 p.m. before I'm like, oh, this is an internship and I need to stop working on this right now. But yeah, the day-to-day has changed pretty drastically, but it's also remained a lot the same. We have been doing staff meetings on a normal schedule through Zoom, which is not quite the same, but is, scratching the itch of wanting to stay connected with coworkers. And we're doing like check-ins with each other. Yeah, honestly, it's been more work since all of this happened, just because city life is working on, housing insecurity and making sure people can stay in their homes. And that's unfortunately more of an issue right now. But yeah, that's, I don't know. I miss the after internship portion of semester in the city the most right now, I think, honestly. But yeah.
Colin, what was your experience? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to see you're at home right now.
Yeah. I wound up moving back to the semester. So I'm actively on Cape Cod, which is much quieter than Alston, for better and mostly for worse.
Colin, what was your experience like? You talk about like missing some of that, city life. What were some of the highlights of that?
Yeah. So I'm a big museum geek and a big live music geek. So Alston was the perfect place for me in regards to live music, because there is Brighton Music Hall that's like literally 500 feet from the apartments, and they have some really cool like bigger name shows, but they also have like smaller bands for $5 cover charge sometimes. So that was like really nice to just saunter down and listen to a local band play for a couple hours. But yeah, between the museums and the parks and there's just always something going on in Boston. So I'm honestly pretty eclectic and was able to just kind of pull up like what's going on tonight and text a friend, or either in the cohort, because you connect with folks in the cohort so quickly. So whether it be my roommates or my neighbors in the apartment building or friends down the street, and just reaching out to them and saying, hey, do you want to go to this thing at the Brattle Theater tonight? Or whether it's, reaching out to folks that you meet just organically in the city. It really is just such a high level of engagement, and there's so much to do all the time.
Awesome. What about you, Jackie? Some highlights from
Yeah,
your
I mean, the proximity of the businesses, like the restaurants in Alston to where you're living, is definitely really awesome. Super close, grocery store super close, and you have, I think, more than one option. That's like, I think there's a Trader Joe's that's really accessible, like a few stops away on the bus, and then you have Be Fresh, which has like a lot of great produce. And so you kind of like pick and choose of what you want. And I think you can even like get your groceries delivered super easily for cheap. And I guess for me, I was 21, so I did get to go out a bunch out on the town. And that was a lot of fun. And I think one of the biggest events that I remember going to was at the Museum of Fine Arts. We had a whole bunch of students go. I think we had like 12 or 13 kids, and we saw like this live dance performers, and we were like a few feet away from them, and they were just so cool and wild. And then you get to go walk around in all of the galleries and dress up a little bit. And so that was a lot of fun. And, you know, I got to meet a different group of kids than I had at that point in the semester, which was really nice touch.
That's so fun. Jackie, was that a first Friday at the MFA?
I think it was, yeah.
I've been to
awesome.
so fun. It's fun to dress up too.
Yeah, exactly. Take some great photos and everything.
Awesome. Well, Colin, one question I have for you is, how do you feel the staff or semester in the city has been able to support you during this difficult time? We sort of briefly talked about it, but obviously we're, having to make a lot of adjustments and changes to the semester. How do you feel it's been supported?
Yeah. One thing I can say with like absolute certainty about Semester in the City is they are going to go above and beyond for you. Like, the staff has worked so hard to be accommodating, even prior to all of this craziness. Like, I had temporary mobility issues that like just had some concerns coming into the city and like how that was going to be sustainable for me. And immediately they actually set up a meeting to sit down one-on-one and see what accommodations would look like if I needed any accommodations, assured me that there was, anything from Uber credits to get to my job and back if that was going to be an issue, to making sure like I could have a mobility aid if I needed one. Like, they really above and beyond even prior to all of this. And since then, there's been so many adaptations that I know you guys are doing on the fly while you're also dealing with personal stresses of everything going on. But from the semester in the Zoom chats have been really nice, where we're meeting with just a few folks from the cohort and a few organizers or staff, and just talking for 40 minutes, kind of catching up and also touching base on where we're at in the semester for the program. Additionally, I think we've had a pretty seamless switch into virtual classes, which is no easy task. Like, my special project for the semester, which we might talk about later, is literally all around Zoom meetings, and it's not super intuitive software all the time. So I'm amazed at how quickly you guys have adapted on your side. But the staff support has been amazing, because there's been so much reaching out regarding how I'm adapting to being home, regarding my decision to move home before I did that, regarding how I can get my stuff back from the apartment, regarding keeping folks connected. There's even the CAs are doing brunches every Sunday morning, which is a really cute idea, and also has been really nice to keep folks plugged into each other and just like keep the cohort connected in a way that I don't think would have been feasible if you guys weren't going so above and beyond. So I'm very grateful to all the staff, and I think you will be too if you wind up applying to semester in the city.
Aw, shucks. Oh, that's so sweet. Awesome. Well, Colin, you mentioned your special project, and that's something that we haven't really touched upon. If you're watching this, you may not know, but if you do semester in the city, the internships are a little bit different from your typical internship. A lot of internships that you might have, or stereotypes about the typical internship, is that you're just like getting coffee or like kind of doing some typical grunt work. But in semester in the city, you get the opportunity to do some meaningful work and dedicate 40% of your time at your internship to a special project. So do both of you or one of you want to share what your special project was or is?
Sure, I can real quick. It was initially going to be organizing, trying to keep members plugged into what city life is doing, while also doing some educational programming around, housing policy and stuff like that. And it was going to be a way to passively keep donors plugged into the movement. It has shifted pretty drastically with everything going on. So we're now focused on not only trying to develop that, but also maintaining City Life has been around for almost 50 years, and they've held Tuesday night meetings for most of that 50-year span. So we're trying to maintain that sense of community however we can. So we've morphed a lot of what we've been doing to try and transpose it into the community meeting. And on top of that, I mean, 40% of your time is supposed to be dedicated to special projects. So you still get so much time to have like hands-on experience with how the organization functions. So I was able to do everything from, maintaining a database of donors and updating that to reaching out to folks directly, making calls, helping organizers however I can. And even the one-on-one relationship that you get to form with your mentor is pretty incredible too. I got to experience a lot of really unique things just through that relationship. So got to sit in on board meetings and go into WBUR, which was awesome for me. I mean, I'm NPR nerd. So there really is just so many facets to the internship experience. And it is more than an internship experience. It's a fellowship experience.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I had I guess like starting with a special project, I totally agree that it allows you to really dive into a lot of different sectors of the business, especially I guess it depends on what scale of your business, obviously, or the corporation, nonprofit. But for me, because my business was still on the smaller side, I really got to collaborate across different sectors like operations, design, sales, marketing. And so I got to kind of grab a lot of tools along the way, like using computer programs or kind of just understanding the language of a business that much more. And so my special project was creating customer-facing surveys that would kind of bridge the communication between our business and our customers to understand if our raised bed gardens would work best for them, if we could tweak things to make things better for them, and just overall get better customer satisfaction. And kind of like you said, it definitely gave me a lot of time to work with my mentor and kind of understand how he sees the business, and be able to take that perspective and adapt it to the skills that I already had. And, going into the project, or at least initially the project was something completely different because your mentor kind of gives you a description of some possible project ideas. But, it was really awesome that I was able to kind of adapt to the project to what I really wanted it to be based off of the skills I was trying to gain. And so I had already kind of had a little bit of background with survey design. And then I was able to, actually enact it in the end, which was really fabulous. And, your projects don't just affect your semester, but they affect semesters in the future for the business. And I've been able to kind of go back and ask my mentor about how things are going with the implementation of the surveys. And he says it's been pretty successful so far, which I definitely thought was very satisfying in the end. And kind of going into the experience, I had a different capstone thesis for my senior project at my university, and it kind of failed. And so I was a little bit discouraged that I wouldn't really be able to make that sort of change. And so, having it in a real life business made it that much more real and instilled that sense of confidence that we kind of talked about before.
Awesome. Thank you both. I know we're running out of, or we have just a couple more minutes left with you both. I'd love to ask one or two more questions. And one question that I do have with the extended application deadline looming next Wednesday, April 15th, I'd love to ask you both, if you were talking to a prospective student who is, on the fence, obviously this is a really uncertain time and they're thinking about applying, what do you think that would be helpful for them to know, or what would you say to them?
I guess as an ambassador for the program, I have been talking to a lot of students, and it seems like a lot of them have been hesitating just because they don't think they can work it into their schedule. But I would say just apply right away to kind of keep the opportunity open for you, because the application isn't binding. And you can always back out before you 100% commit to it after we accept you into the program. And I think a lot of students kind of forget that. the application is super easy. It also kind of gets you to think a little bit about yourself in terms of what sort of impact you want to make in the world. So I say there is no loss because it only takes 30 minutes of your time. So you could watch a Office episode on Netflix in that amount of time. So
good call, for sure.
And I'm not an ambassador, but I actually have a little brother who I've been talking into doing the program. So I'm somewhat experienced in selling. And I would say if you're on the fence, I was on the fence before I started the program. I really wasn't sure because it's a big jump for some folks to make. Like I had been commuting to school. It was a big change for me, and there's some concern around that. But I would encourage you to take the leap. Like Jackie said, it's not fully binding until you're like committed to a mentor. But yeah, I cannot sing Semester in the City's praises enough. I only wish that I could have, that everything that happened hadn't happened, but we have very little control over that, and they've made it work throughout that. So even if, God forbid, this is still a thing in the fall, I think this will be an amazing program for you to be a part of.
Yeah, and the program will be here in the fall. We will adapt no matter what, and that's what we've been preaching as well. And I think one thing to kind of note going off of that is like that the mentors and the organizations that we work with, they have training throughout this entire process, to make them better mentors each year. And a lot of our mentors stick around multiple years because they just get so excited about their fellows. And, they kind of go into the program knowing that they want to have an impact on the students that they are taking. And they really want them to learn through the entire experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. There you have it, folks. I couldn't have said it better myself. If you are thinking about applying, we have a couple more days left. We have, I think, less than a week for the last deadline. And definitely think about applying. Like Jackie said, it's a very easy process and only takes you about less than a half hour, and you don't lose anything by applying. You're not committing. It's just keeping a door open if you want to walk through it. So thank you all. Thank you both so much. You are amazing. And I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me. I hope you both have wonderful days. Any last parting thoughts, words of wisdom?
Definitely talk to students, ask questions, and we're trying to make it more and more easier for you to kind of understand what the perspective is by like connecting you with people who've been in the program before. So feel free to Facebook search me.
And plus one to that, you can definitely reach out to me because it is an amazing program. Apply to Semester in the City. You will not regret it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Colin. Thanks, Jackie. Talk to you both soon.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.